Tonight's Bar Rescue episode, How to Train the Dragon. And you'll never guess who my special guest co-host is tonight. Bar Rescue creator, JD Roth.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
If you get in trouble.
Hello, Bar Rescue fans. Keven Undergaro here. And as I said at the top of the show, I am so excited. JD Roth in the house, the creator, the mastermind behind Bar Rescue. Who would have thought?
Taffer's the mastermind, let's be honest, right? We gotta give him the credit.
Okay,
But,
yeah,
yes.
right, but it's without saying. So we say it every week. I mean, I drink the Kool-Aid. I honestly think Taffer would be a great president. I mean that. Because he's a problem solver, whatever. However, you know, we always compliment the creation of the show, the editing, do you know what I mean? There's so
storytelling.
Many other, yes.
Yeah. My business partner Todd Nelson and DJ Nuri, these are the guys who, you know, we all gave birth to that show way back in the beginning when you have this great untapped talent like John and you're trying to figure out what to do, right? And how to use it to the best of its capabilities. Put a cape on the guy and let him be a superhero.
So tell me how it all unfolds. So we've got John, and I know John brought in the concept, and okay, it's great, but all those beats that we love so much, the bar science, speak to how that all happened.
Well, as a company, you know, at 3Ball, all we really love to do are shows about transformation. So whether that's The Biggest Loser or Extreme Weight Loss or My Cat from Hell or Bar Rescue, it's always leaving people better off than where we met them. And that's really, in the end, this is a transformational show. You take someone who's in a bad way, whose life is not as good as they want it to be, and with the help of an expert and science, you know, and construction crews, and we speed up the process, fix it, and then leave them and step back and let them take their life from that point forward.
And so and again, I want to just say JD was gracious enough to come in here today to help with the show, but he's also here promoting his book, Big Fat Truth, Behind the Scenes Secrets to Losing Weight, Gaining Inner Strength to Transform Your Life, based on all of your many years with extreme.
Sure.
Right?
But all the issues
Weight
that are
loss.
in the book, How to Fix Your Life, could be used for weight loss. They could be used for bar rescue. They could be, in general, it's, you know, your body follows your mind. So if you fix your mind and you really figure out why you're eating all that food, no one's that hungry to get to 400 pounds. Nobody. So there's an emotional reason why you're eating. Figure that out and your body follows.
It's the foundation. We say it with Bar Rescue, we say all the time. In fact, I've had my staff here for years. It was mandatory to watch Bar Rescue because I feel the same way you do, that it doesn't matter. Right. Whether it's a bar, it just, these things apply to business. And when we watch the show, John's always fixing the people, maybe even more than he's fixing the bar.
No different than My Cat from Hell, which is we're fixing the owners of the cats more than we are the cats. It's the same thing. It's everything in life. You want to live the best life you can live, you got to start up here. And you got to look in the mirror. Everybody is so busy looking out the window. They want to see the view. Oh, if my life could only be like that. But nobody wants to do the real work that it takes, which is the stuff in the mirror. That's the potential for the most growth in your life, but it's the hardest thing to do. And that goes for all these bar owners. It goes for people 400 pounds. Across the board, you want a better life, you start in the mirror.
So with Big Fat Truth, so now you sold me. And now I have to read this book. But with Big Fat Truth, you're focusing on the person, but are there also tips about losing weight, like the diet, exercise stuff?
I think there are.
Not that I think it's necessary, but I'm asking.
There are a lot of books out there that are prescriptive. Here's what you should do each day. Here's what you should eat. And by a lot smarter people than me. So I try not to be prescriptive as much as I try to be inspirational. There are a lot of amazing stories that happened in the last 15 years on all these weight loss shows that I never even put on the show. So I try to use the examples of the pixie dust that we sprinkle over contestants, and everybody thinks magically in 16 weeks they're cured and they've lost hundreds of pounds. Well, there's a lot of work that happens off camera. And that work happens with me looking at them and calling them out on what they're doing in their life and how to fix it.
And okay, so a couple of things. I know with Bar Rescue, we have 70% or more of the bars are still open. How many of the people from Extreme Home Weight Loss
That's
are
a good
still
question.
thin?
Yeah, so in the real world, if you lose over 100 pounds, 3 years later, less than 5% of the people have kept that 100 pounds off. That's the real world.
5%.
No different than alcoholics, drug addicts.
Lottery winners.
Yes, same thing. So now on our shows, in the combination of all our shows over the last 15 years, over 60% 3 years later have kept the weight off. So you're talking 12 times the national average. Now, when you lose weight in front of millions of people and you go to the grocery store, everybody's looking in your cart. So there's a little bit of more accountability there. You know, when you're on the cover of People magazine being the winner of The Biggest Loser, and you go out to dinner, everybody's looking on your plate to see what you have. And that does keep you more accountable. Also, a lot of contestants quit their job at 3 Day Blinds after it's over and become a trainer or a nutritionist or something in the field that they're passionate about. And once you're trading on something and making a living, you also have to keep yourself looking a certain way.
So it was very gracious of you to qualify, that and being honest. So what can we do for, so the other people that can lose the weight, how do we get them to keep it off if they're not on your show?
Right. So, well, first they could read the book, which is a good start, because in the book I talk about the fact that if you want to kind of mimic what it's like to be on a TV show, make your weight loss public. Get a t-shirt that says, this year, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. I guarantee you people will talk to you about it. Tell everyone on social media, this is what I'm going to accomplish this year. The more you try to do things privately and quietly and alone, the easier it is to quit. The more you make it public and loud and proud and tell your whole church congregation, the harder it is to turn around.
Okay, so that's why you guys, I love people like you, JD. I love people like John, and I love people bring new information and share the information, because Maria's book, which was a bestseller too on weight loss, said the exact opposite. But yours also makes sense. So, so for Maria, she said she didn't tell anyone she was on a diet because it sets you up for failure, and it's all those questions. Hey, I thought you were on a diet. She's more about baby steps, and she took 1.5 years to lose her 40 pounds and never gain it back. But I always say that there are, even when I coach people on success in Hollywood, I'll always say, listen, there are multiple paths to get there.
Sure.
I'm just telling you one, but this makes total sense.
And
what
she's
you're saying.
Also already in the public eye.
This was when she was a baby, when she was like 19, 20.
Yeah.
And she just said, no, having friends be like, oh, what are you eating? I thought you're on a diet. It was just more that failure. So I believe me, I helped her write the book. So I see that path. That being said, my theory, multiple paths to get you there, and I'm sure Maria would agree, I love this idea.
The best backup plan is no backup plan. And who would want to tell someone that? How many people ask you for advice for their kids in Hollywood? I always tell them, if you have a fallback plan, you will take it. Because when I'm on the freeway with my kid, who's a teenager, who wants to be an actor, and I look around and I see thousands of cars, I tell him, guess what? Everyone in every one of these cars, they want to do what you want to do. They want to be on television, in a movie, they want to be famous. To get to the front of the line, you can't look over all those cars. You got to pick them off one at a time. So don't think you're going to skip over all the cars, fly over them, and get to the front of the line. Take one car I got that one behind me, and enjoy the process of moving all those cars behind you to get to the front of the line.
And embracing the process.
Definitely. If you don't, you'll never get there. The people that are like, I should be a movie star, I should be in the front of the line, I should, they're never really willing to do the work to get there.
So it's going back to your book again. It's those people who are sitting in the car, look, the view of, oh, I want to be thin. If only I could be thin, rather than doing it.
No different than the bar owners.
Right.
80% of the bar owners own a bar because they like to drink. Not because they're businessmen.
I say it every week, and it's funny, I can't really get John to cop to it so much, but I see such alcohol being such a problem with the owners of these bars.
It's a great way to justify something that you like. A lot of overweight people own restaurants. It's not a secret, right? If you love food, think about all those very large people who love to bake. It's like it's a form of love for them.
Yes.
There's some of the best chefs in the world are not thin. And there's a reason for that. And some of the greatest bars ever have owners that like to drink a little too much. It's not a coinky-dink,
Wow. Okay. So, JD, with the book, we can get it on Amazon, right?
Yes.
Big Fat Truth. And we'll touch on it, I'm sure, throughout this episode. I know fans are going to be anxious for us to delve into the episode. And then you and I have much more to talk about. I think I need to get you on Maria's morning show as well. Awesome. I think you guys would have a lot to discuss. But anyway, okay, so tonight's episode, How to Train the Dragon. I thought it was amazing. I mean, there aren't many I don't think are amazing. I mean, it's literally been 2 misses, I think, in 100 and something shows. And I mean that, honestly. But this one, I thought was outstanding.
Yep, I agree.
So now, you're not at this point, you're removed from the being in the edit bays, right, on a show like this.
Yeah, but recently, within the last year and a half. Otherwise, that was my favorite part. But honestly, you know, when you are working with a show of this kind of quality, with the people on it who love the story and know the format beats, a lot of times I go into an edit bay, watching a 1-hour show could take 3 hours. But watching a 1-hour show of Bar Rescue takes a little over an hour. Sometimes I just sit back. I'm not going to give notes just to give notes. Sometimes I just turn to everyone and go, this is great TV.
Yeah, just enjoy
I'd
it.
watch this tomorrow on air and be perfect.
Love hearing it. So we've got these. We have an English bar here. We have 2 brothers. Mainly Dave he's the alpha. He's the owner. Tony is the masochist manager, younger brother. And we see that life's kind of gotten out of control when Mom has passed away. Right. And he said at one point they were making, I think it was like 1.9 million it made in a year.
That's right.
And now we're down. We've lost
$690,000 they were down.
in debt. And 4 of 7 nights he's in playing poker. But what really killed me is later in the episode when I hear that the freaking poker players are drinking water.
Right.
So I thought, okay, hey, come on, man, if that's a draw, but
No business.
no business. You're not taking any of the pot. You know, it's not like there's a vig or, you know, like a
Right.
number the house would be getting no matter what. Nothing. Just bring in like his bums.
Yeah, and don't you find it interesting that after the matriarch of your family disappears, you could turn to food, but he has a bar business, so he turned to alcohol. And then he started drinking too much. I think people that I've worked with that have been overweight, they fall into one of 5 or 6 categories, and one of them is not being able to deal with loss. And we shouldn't judge, because just because you have the tools, if your mother or father or loved one passed away, you have the tools to process it,
Right.
deal with it, and move on, doesn't mean everybody does. And this guy just didn't have the tools to process the information. So what's the outlet? What's right next to him? Alcohol.
Yeah.
And then you take your eye off the ball, and before you know it, you're $700,000
And then
in
cards
debt.
too. Gambling is another
Absolutely.
addiction, right? We do the recon. We have Phil Wells and Gavin, and I forgot it was Gavin. Perfect, you know,
Perfect
an
fit.
Irish chef, and then Phil Wells. I joke like I'm in love with 3. I'm in love with Mia, Lisa Marie Joyce, and Phil Wells. The 3 of them. If I could marry the 3 of them, I would. I think they are honestly, JD, and I'm telling you this. If I had to put them on the 9 o'clock hour of the Today Show, I could. They're that good. They're
I
that
agree.
diamonds in the rough. They're amazing. And so Phil Wells, there's one point in this where Phil, did you see him throwing the poker chips over seamlessly
all 10 in the bucket.
in the
Yeah.
bucket? It's like he's a stud. But so we got the great recon team. They're horrified by the messiness of the bar. It's another really messy bar. One of the worst kitchens we've seen. The bar was bad, but the kitchen was deplorable.
How many times have you been to a bar or a bar type restaurant and out comes the food and you think about John? I mean, it happens to me all the time.
Maria, my girlfriend, we no longer can go to places anymore, legit, because of John.
Right.
Because she's like, I can't anymore because now I know what's going on.
Yeah. And when the food comes out, has a little bit of a funny smell or something, I think, oh my God, if John went back there right now, he'd shut this whole place down. I can't eat this. I got to push it away and I got to leave.
You know, I did a recon this weekend.
Oh yeah?
Yes, there's a bar out in California. I don't know how much I can give away, so I don't want to give away too much. But I was lucky enough, and I've done it a few times with Maria, as you know. But I this one I went solo, and I went and did market research. That was my job for the 2 days I was there, and it was it's just amazing. And I still get like fans who, I don't watch that show anymore because it's fake and this and that. Like, I was there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm nosy. I'm looking at everything and I'm watching all of this happen.
I think a little bit it's become a rite of passage to get Taffered, you know, to get yelled at, and that sometimes these owners are not as phased as they used to be because television has worn the shine off of that a little bit. You know, how many times have you seen a bar rescue 24-hour marathon and it's just John yelling for 24 hours? So now you're a bar owner, and guess what? This famous guy's coming to your bar. You know the end. The end is your bar's getting remade. All right, John's got to yell at me. Go ahead and yell at me. So it doesn't have the same effect that it used to have, and I think that's part of it. So people watch it and they think, oh, it's a little fake. No, it's that when someone's getting Taffered, it's a different experience, much like in later seasons when Jillian would yell at you on The Biggest Loser. It was a rite of passage. So it changed the experience.
Right. So that's the catch-22 that I've always talked about on our show here, that I'm just terrified. I'm like, it's like too many people know now, so they are expecting these beats. But the cool thing is, and I bet you would know this, it's when you're in a high-pressure situation and then you've got alcohol involved, and you're fatigued, you're tired, you're drinking, or you're not drinking when you're usually drinking, and John's yelling and yelling, I feel like the real comes out.
Yeah, the
just
trigger
snap.
points, yeah.
You
You can only take so much.
Right.
But did anyone notice on this episode the most interesting thing that I watched in this entire episode? Because we all know what the normal stuff that happens. Did that guy David ever change his shirt? He wore that blue rope sweater.
He did.
For days.
So I went at your EP.
How's that possible?
Okay, so I went at your EP about this. Just so you know, this weekend I went after Katie Dirks, who I love.
Yeah.
And I have another show for you too, which maybe I'll say off the air.
Awesome.
She's a fantastic. She spoke so highly of you, and she's called you a mentor. It was really just nice to see. But and I said to John, I go, John, one thing about these guys, the trailer, where they're doing production. I said, I know you're gonna think that this is pun intended, and it's not. I said, they're all in. The whole staff, and it really is. Yep. Everyone's all in. I mean, they're screaming at the monitors,
That's right.
but not at their staff. They're actually emoting against the people doing their thing, and they're rooting for other waiters and waiters.
There's passion there.
Yes.
It's real for them. It's not just a job.
And I was telling John, I was like, you can't, that's one of the components why this show's amazing. And I said, you got to remember that too.
But who does that feed off of? John,
that's right.
So when John's that passionate about someone else's business, and when John cares more about the guy that's in debt, then the staff starts to feel that way too.
Right.
And they take ownership the same way John does. You notice John says before he even enters the bar, John always talks in the we. Here's what we have to do. As if it's already his business, even before he's walked in the doors.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him great.
It's amazing. Well, talking to Katie, I said, I'm noticing a lot of the people are wearing the same shirts, and I said, I'm guessing you're doing that for editing purposes, because I see you go. I've been to, now this is my 4th rescue. I've seen you go chronologically. I don't see any of this made up. I said, but you, and by the way, I wore this. I had the same clothes on hand because I didn't know if she needed me to do the same. And she said, sometimes we encourage it because it just can help in terms of editing. She's like, I'm starting to think we should get away from it. I said, yeah, because I think it's going to make people think that you're shooting it in a certain way when you're not.
Yeah, in all the episodes I've seen, I've never seen someone wear the same sweater more.
The whole time?
And sweating,
I watch
and drinking,
it all the time.
And playing poker,
You're right.
and cleaning
Maybe
the kitchen, and the next day he still had it on. That thing's got to be standing on its own by now.
Yeah, and I think, this is where I'm bad, but I think where he's European too, I don't see that thing. I don't see an Englishman washing that thing. Just, that's maybe a very American thing. But anyway, John and him screaming. I mean, John really hammered him, but again, you've got a strong-headed guy who's drinking, he's gambling. He went back at him hard. There was a couple of times I thought legit he was out.
Well, yeah, and then John also hit a sore spot with him too. Finally, I think when he said, you're asleep at the wheel, and you're running this business into the ground. Is that a way to honor your mother? And I think that was the time that it really got to the guy.
Can you imagine running 3-ball and there being bad things going on there, and you're just like, well, that's not my problem. It's the manager's problem. It's like, what?
Especially when it has been a success before. So you know what success feels like. You know what it tastes like. You know what depositing the money feels like. You know what a packed house feels like, and everyone thinking you're the man. So that's there. You guys just got to get that back. It's like when we work with an ex-athlete on a weight loss show. It's easy. Because it's muscle memory.
They get it.
They know how to find that. They know how to put their head down and just work. We don't have to teach someone, unlike someone who's never run up a flight of stairs in their life. Now you're starting at 0. This guy tasted success. It should be easier for him to figure out how to get back there.
Maybe that's why it was.
Maybe. Because all of a sudden the suit was on, the tie was on, right? He was professional. He wasn't tempted to have a drink again after that on the job. He just needed to snap of attention.
How familiar are you with English pubs and these kind of like niche bars? Yes?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in lots of them. For me, maybe it's the California guy in me. Every day at the same time before the sun's even down to go to a pub just seems like an absolute right-hand turn in my life. I want to be outside. I want to be running on the beach. I want to, be playing ball. I just don't understand the culture of it, the fish and chip, pub culture. But pub is what, we heard on the show, a public place. A public place for people to go to share, and I do understand that.
I mean, again, big part of their culture.
Yeah,
even if you think of London, it's gloomy, it's dark, it's not what you're saying.
Right.
California, so.
And you've seen relatives and parents.
Yes,
you grow up around that. You aspire to be model after that, so it becomes something that's part of who you are.
Well, even in Boston, where I'm from, but South Boston, Southeast, Charlestown, those areas, just those Irish bars are really part of the culture. They're part of the fabric, but I never, coming from just Boston, which is literally so, I don't know, so segregated, and I hate to say it, it's not really anymore, but it was when I was growing up. So I never even knew such things as a British pub. But out here, I was like, oh, wow, how cool. But I think it's really smart because rather than try to compete with everyone else, you target this niche.
Right.
So I was like, I was crossing my fingers like, oh, John, please don't tip over this apple cart and change this to something else.
Especially because the greatest asset the guy had for him was he was actually really British.
He was a true Brit.
Right, so he actually understands what it's like to run a true pub. So that's an advantage from a marketing standpoint that you wouldn't want to get rid of.
I just love John, who's always like, okay, what are the cards I have in my deck? And he knew. And then he even knows how to play the emotional cards to motivate them. Like I always go back to the one episode where the one guy, he felt he was letting his dad down. It was a military bar. And John put up a picture of the father on the wall so he'd see it every day. Yep. And with this, it was just your mom. You're trading away your mother's legacy.
Isn't it interesting, though? This is this guy's business. He owns it. It's in his name. And yet he's pleading with John, please keep the name. It's that important. So at that point, I think John realizes, okay, the guy has relinquished control.
Okay,
and John
JD,
needs that.
I'm sorry, because I'm the Hollywood career coach. And I have to say, and I'm sorry, Bar Rescue fans, in a moment, JD broke into the business as a host. I used to watch this guy on TV all the time on Nickelodeon.
Yep.
Okay, buddy. I think there's something else for you to do. No, I mean that.
Been saying that for a long time.
Well, I'm telling you that. I don't care what anyone else says. Like, I'm the one who said, Maria Menounos, you're 40 pounds heavy at 19. She goes, I want to produce films. Like, no, you're a star. Stop it. So when I say it, I'm telling you, and I have many, from Beth Bears to Melissa McCarthy, many of these experiences of people, I'm like, no. Yeah, I think now, like John, you're at a point in your life where you've had, like John had the immense success in bars, right? Immense success working with people, but one thing you have that John doesn't was that you're actually a trained host.
Yep, that's true.
So there's something in this space where, because I'm just like, between the book and what you're understanding of Bar Rescue and understanding people, and again, as I said, different ways to get there. John would get there yelling and screaming. You gave me the same information by talking just like a gentleman, calmly. It's just, again,
different styles,
different roads to get there. Yeah. But there's something there we need to talk about after this show, because there's something you want to help people, you can help people, and you're a professionally trained host. And then
that's a real muscle. You have to work that to really understand.
But you're like a real. I mean, that was in the day when no one was on TV.
That's right.
I mean, it was like 6 channels.
Yep,
right?
That's right.
And to be, was it Double Dare? What were the shows?
It was Funhouse.
Funhouse.
Which we did 500 episodes of, and then I've done almost 2,000 episodes of games and other things like that. So yeah, it's been great. And honestly, the left-hand turn into producing, and then producing weight loss, and then falling in love in that moment with realizing I could help somebody get their life back, which was way bigger than ratings. It was way bigger than all those accolades. It didn't matter. And if somebody really changed their life, then people will watch. Then you do get ratings, and that allows you to help more people.
Everyone wins. Right.
Exactly.
Nothing wrong with it. We were talking on the Tomorrow Show, my late night show. We were talking to.
How many shows do you do?
No, this is Bar Rescue's not on all the time, right? So it's like, this is easy, and this is fun. This is not even, it's all fandom and geekdom. But the Tomorrow Show is a bigger show that we produce and do at nighttime. But we had on Lucy Walsh, Joe Walsh's daughter, who's starring in Gary Marshall's new film,
Wow.
Mother's Day. And we were just talking about Gary Marshall, his 50 years of just always giving back. Like, he's literally talking to her, and he's like, oh, I'll put you in my movie. Oh, you're a musician too? I'll send the music over. Let's see if we can work it in the film. But you go back to Anson Williams on Happy Days, will tell you the same things about the guy. And I think the lesson is you give and you get. Yep. And that's why would a guy... He's got to be close to 80, still directing, where most are pushed out of the business by 55, right? So
I'm sure, like him, I'm much more comfortable in the giving part. I'm not really that comfortable in the getting. And so it's a natural place for me, and I'm sure for him too. People who do like to give a lot, I just get so much pleasure out of watching somebody.
And that's the same way, but here's where you do get. First of all, you have to let yourself get, because you're robbing the other people of that joy to give back to you. So that's a separate thing, but you're getting because you're JD Roth, you're wildly successful. He's getting because he's still doing what he loves at that age, where I know so many people now in Hollywood that are out of the game and they're bitter and they're miserable. And I say to myself, I kind of think they were always bitter and miserable, and that's what led them out. But those people, Henry Winkler's another one, just warm and gracious. Not a coincidence he's still relevant, working. So
that was the heyday of TV too, right? I mean, I remember back those days.
It was a different world. The kids don't understand. You didn't have 1,000 options.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays you get millions of dollars to produce a TV show to hopefully get a couple million in your audience, and some kid in his dorm room produced something that morning, literally from his dorm room, and gets 2 million views by lunch, and did it for nothing.
It's so scary.
It is.
No, it's really frightening. It's a different world, and that's a whole other discussion. Let's get back to Bar Rescue. So we see Gavin gets into the kitchen, and once we get the place cleaned, which, by the way, I love when they clean. I'm a clean freak, so I was so excited to see all the stainless steel sparkle.
Scrubbing it.
Right? And by the way, the bones of the kitchen were good. Like, I knew he wasn't going to do much with the kitchen. We had good equipment.
Yep.
You could see. But even Gavin, because a hot-headed Irishman against a hot-headed Brit, we really skipped over that.
That was automatic.
Automatic. Yeah. I mean, that was like...
By the way, even when people like that like each other, there's sparks like that. That's a form of love there.
Yeah.
So of course that was going to happen. I love the next day he said, we're going to look forward. We're going to let that live where it lived, and that's gone. And now we're going to look forward to our relationship. And they just, okay.
And they did. Yeah, well, they remind me of the old time... Again, I just knew in Boston, like, you'd get in a fist fight with somebody, and that was it. You'd buy the winner would buy the loser a sandwich and say, whatever. That was it.
Help them up off the ground.
Yeah, that was it. And then they were besties. It just, So I love that old school mentality. Going to the bar, it seemed Phil had more trouble with getting the bartenders. There was that one girl, Kat. You could just tell everything was kind of... sometimes with those environments, you notice when they're so bad that when you're the star of the bad environment, you never have to really try. But now when the environment changes, right, you have to bring your game up, but you've never had to try. So she was the kind of the star. And then now it's like Phil Wills is there, and it's like he was just pushing all their buttons.
Well, for years, you don't have to do anything. And in fact, you're doing less and less every week, and you're earning less and less. Till finally, I think you just shut the switches off, and it's like, okay, well, if I'm not earning money, I'm not going to do any work.
I'm going to start giving up.
And then you think it's okay. And then all of a sudden, one day someone says, okay, time to work. You can't just pop to attention, much like you can't go from 0 minutes on a treadmill to 5 hours in a day. You have to work up to it.
And she did the walkout, which I love. But we got her back. She came back in.
The walkout's great.
The walkout's the best. I love when they do the walkout. I love, and you also feel bad too. What I'm seeing is it's a trend. Is the very person who writes the letter saying, "Hey, come on the show."
Right.
Starting back with Lyndon Byers. Remember the old Bruins player?
Yes.
That brought and then got himself fired, and then Tony, who reached out, ends up being called the Stupidvisor.
But he was really being called that not because of his actions, but because of his brothers.
His brother was.
Hey, if your brother won't let you do anything, then this is the title that you get. And I think he agreed. Yeah, I'm not really allowed to do anything.
Wow.
If you're going to be a control freak and then not do any work and ignore everything that has to be done, that's a double whammy.
Yeah.
I felt bad for the brother a little bit.
I did
too.
You? I felt really bad for him. I did, but I knew John had this. I knew I had a good feeling about this. I knew everything was going to end up okay because we had the bones were good, right? We have a Brit who owns, like you said, he's the only Brit to own a British pub in that area. and because we do have the brother, we have a family. I felt like this one, and as long as John didn't knock over the apple cart, which I don't know why I would have lost faith in thinking he was. I was just like, oh my God, please don't. I don't know, don't turn this into a sports bar. Don't, you know what I mean? Like he knew, and then again, here's why I compliment your show so much. Is you guys, you're not afraid to step away from formula. So I like the Kitchen Nightmare show is what introduced me to Bar Rescue.
Yep.
No, for me, no
Kitchen
Nightmares, there would be no Bar Rescue. So I became a big fan of that. And then someone was like, oh, if you like that, you'll like Bar Rescue. And then it was like second season, and Maria and I went bananas.
Yep.
But I will say that every single show that I saw, Gordon takes a bite of the food, spits into the napkin. Yeah. Every single show. Yeah. You guys, I wouldn't say every week, but there's so many curves where we step away. So for example, I'm saying to myself, don't change the name. I'm saying to myself, no, John, not this one. But I'm like, I know that mother effer John is so headstrong. He's going to change the name, and he's going to have a very strong reason to do it. But I'm begging, like, please don't. And I was like, I was sure that he was going to change the name, and then
it's the emotional moment. It's the get the chocolate factory moment. You know what I mean? In Willy Wonka, here's the gobstopper. The chocolate factory's yours. And I think once he says, okay, John, it's in your hands. Please don't change the name, but I trust you. You do what you have to do. That's when you get the whole chocolate factory.
Wow.
I think that really is the moment. And if the guy fought it, absolutely, I will walk out. This will not be my book. Then John changes it because it's a little taming of the shrew. I say it's night out. Well, the sun is out. I'm telling you it's night. Yeah, but it's day. Until you say night, I'm not going to stop. Then once the person finally gives in and you tame the shrew, then the person can change. It's like the army. Right. Officer and a gentleman. I got nowhere else to go.
He brought him to that point. Yeah. Yes. But let's talk about. You agree not change the name on this one
for sure. If the guy wasn't a Brit, if he wasn't brought up on fish and chips and that pub culture, then maybe it's a coin toss. Not even close coin toss though in this case, I don't think.
And I think you would really anger people in the town.
For sure.
If it wasn't,
And it also had a good reputation. It's not that people thought it was terrible. It's, I would never go to that place. You can't turn that around. People had a good feeling about it. It just needed to be run like a business.
So talking about the renovation, I loved just seeing this place get cleaned up. I loved it was those little snug, what does he call those things? Snug?
Yeah, the booths.
Right? What are they called?
Yeah.
Snug booths?
I think they are called snug booths.
Snug booths, which I'd never heard before. And that's the other thing too, there's always literally every single episode we get takeaway.
Right, the terminology.
We learn something.
Yeah.
Whether it's the heat of fry-later oil or
the butt funnel.
The butt funnel, I know.
Come on, that's a standard.
Everyone loves the butt funnel. Yeah, everyone loves the butt funnel. But tonight, the snug booths was interesting. I loved the woodwork, the lighting, the mood was amazing. The front with the British flag doors. The phone booth refrigerators, the red traditional phone booths you see in England.
What you'd expect, right? I mean, these are iconic things from that area.
I was just, and by the way, I think there's almost been only one in 100-something shows that one renovation I didn't love that I disagreed with, and it was the exterior of the tiki bar. There was an outside tiki bar that looked fun on the outside. Then all of a sudden, it was like just kind of aluminum, and I said, "Oh boy!" But again, I don't know what limitations there are for the public. Once you got inside, the place was phenomenal. But other than that, I mean, come on, that would be like a 99.8% success ratio.
Imagine how quickly it's done, and then you have these crews that are up 24 hours a day, trying to get it done in days, what should take months. And then instantly when they're finished, they pack their bag up, they fly to the next town, and they do it again and again and again and again. It's crazy.
How many people on staff, not the general staff, but can you tell me how many people on staff that do the renovations?
You hire local people as well.
Okay.
Because you have to, you got to get
that stinks too, because now you're at the mercy of those people because you don't know if they can deliver.
Contractors and dozens. And then, if something's not right, well, what happens? 2 hours before the bar opens, you got to fix it. and you got to make it right. Now, of course, over the years, it's gotten much more efficient. It's gotten, much better. In the beginning, though, I mean, you can't even believe the all-nighters that were pulled to get these bars ready. And so once again, we take what could take years in someone's life, whether it's an overweight person, a bar owner, and we compress it down to magic numbers of speed, light speed, to get it done. So they have to make emotional changes, physical changes on some shows, mental changes on Bar Rescue, but look in return what you get. You get a rebirth that should take years that ends up happening in a week.
So talking about the manpower that goes into the, because when I watch your transformations, the physical ones, the renovations, and again I go to the other restaurant shows, it's pathetic, but I've seen ones where they literally put a coat of paint on the walls and a new menu. Like, look. And when I think of you, it seems to me, and you're trying not to be biased, give me an honest answer, but it seems like this show does the most extensive renovations.
They're big.
Now, for the restaurant bar
There is some
space.
preparation. So we go and you look and you plan and you take pictures and you talk to John and you create concepts in your head, and you have to have a game plan. You don't go in there blind and then the next day you're pulling the whole bar apart. So just like anything in life, you got to go with a real plan in mind and then execute that plan. Because if you don't, it's never going to happen.
Like filmmaking, you have to have a plan.
And getting electronics and lighting and all these things that go along in a bar, and approval from local city, and you need permitting, and there's stuff that has to happen. But once it's ready, get set, go, you have almost no time. It's a little like, remember Extreme Makeover? Every week it was, they're never going to get the house done. Oh, and then of course the bus would always pull away and the house would be finished. But the work that goes in really happens off camera. What you see on camera is amazing. It's a magic trick, but you can't imagine what goes on behind the scenes. And people like Katie and the staff going 24 hours a day for weeks and weeks on end.
Yeah, the renovation people must be, to the minute, is this stress test or the sit down kind of takes place?
It gets closed, boom.
And then no stopping, working
No stopping.
all through the night.
Yes, around the clock.
And just different shifts different workers come in.
Yes, constantly. And the other thing is, have you ever done construction, which I'm sure you have?
Yeah, I have.
No, these guys don't want to work on top of each other. It's all if the tile guy's there. No, I'm not going to paint. If the painter's there, I'm not going to do plumbing. So we're asking all of the subs to be there at the same time, working on top of each other together, right? And get the job done, which is hard to do.
Impossible.
And what I don't get is how these crews finish and then they go to the next city without any recuperating, without any, a day at the pool, and they start over again and do it again. And it goes on for months. To have your eye on the ball to as many details as you have to have on this show, and to be able to do it at that high a level, John's not going to take work that's 80%.
No.
Not going to take work that's 95%. So if you don't give 100% every time, he's not going to allow you to open the bar. So the fact that they do it at that level, that consistently, is impressive.
I can't wait. On Tuesday I go to see the one I worked on. I was telling the staff, I said I like the renovations because I have done many renovations. I geek out on that as much as I do everything else.
I'm like you. I noticed the light and how the light's under the bar, so it lights up the bottom of the stool, and all those little things that add, and those are the things you're looking for as a customer when you walk in, and the things that you appreciate.
Who does that who does lighting on your, is that John, or is that
John has
the
a say.
One girl I always see there, we see her on I think she's only been named in a couple of episodes, but you see her. Is she your production designer?
That would be, well, there's lighting for the show, right, to make sure everyone looks good. And then there's production design, which would be for the actual bar.
And who does that on this show?
And well, it's been more than one person.
Okay.
But the lighting, the paint, the seats, the booths, the way you present the alcohol, that's a big deal. If I buy your spirit from your company, you don't want it just sitting there with no light on it. You don't, right?
On, gotta light
you
that.
Want it to look good.
Yes.
So to make all of those things look good is a science. And that's what John's been doing for, 30 some odd years?
Best in the world. It's funny, I just a tease for, well, I won't tease it. We'll tease it at the end of the show. But I did go to Bar Rescue Updates. Are you familiar with these guys?
Yeah.
And it looks like we're good. As far as the reviews went, it feels like everyone said it just made the place better and cleaner, and they even like the recipes more. Maybe like one negative person saying, I like the whole dive bar feel. You know, you always get that guy, you know, the typical, as I always say, civilian, you know, who's just miserable and whatever. But overall, it seems wildly successful. And then the video tag at the end. And by the way, talking about, I love how the girls were all in uniform in the British flag. Yeah. And then even him, did you notice he got out of his blue shirt? He's in a black shirt, button-up Oxford with the logo, right? You noticed that too. And he's like, we're back, we're up. What did he say? We're up 50%?
You could have turned the volume off. It's the look in his eyes, it's the smile on his face, it's the way he carries himself. You can see that he's changed. And ultimately for me, you know, wanting to help people fix their mind, that's what I'm about. Great, they're up 50%, awesome. They're not going to go bankrupt, even better. Right. But the way the guy carries himself, it's like you get your mojo back.
I think you're right, you know, and it would just be enough if a guy like that could just break even, because those are the bar owners, that's their family. Right. That's their home, that bar. Yep. And everyone there is their family, those local bars, you know. And I feel like with those kind of guys, as long as they have enough to feed themselves, it's victory. Definitely. You know, it doesn't have to be millions a year. I'm with you, and I think they'd probably say the same thing. You know,
I don't think there's been too many owners over 130 episodes or whatever it is that, in the end, after we left, were unhappy. That they think they're worse off. I don't think that there's a large
Pirates
number
did.
Pirates.
But that's why I love them
in Maryland. Yeah,
that's why I love them.
Yeah, but
they've come around. It seems like
I guess. But if you're living in your mother's basement and you're married and you're $1 million in debt, maybe Pirates isn't really the thing that makes it work. You know, maybe that's not good for a bar. Maybe it's good for something else.
Yeah, we one of the things we talk about on the show all the time is like, listen, take anywhere from your $5,000 to your 20, even if you have 40, 50, renovate your basement, make the kick-ass, best, nicest kick-ass bar there, and that's it. And have your friends over if that's what you're about. And with Pirate Lady, you know.
Remember that episode where the guy actually really lost his eye? And he was wearing a patch on his eye, and it was because he actually needed it.
One-eyed Mike, we talk about him all the time. We used to have a running thing on this show that every single episode of our after show, we mention Pirates. Just you'd come up naturally. Sometimes like 10 seconds into the show, because we're that obsessed with it. But I've been watching her growth over if you notice, like she's coming around to enjoy her celebrity based on your show and based on Taffer, and that bar, of course, is long gone. What a surprise! But she's actually wants to open now one in Florida, and believe it or not, actually kind of has a shot. Because think about it, you're in California, you're in Florida.
Sure.
Well, you've got you guys to launch. Then you've got the fact that you're in Florida. You're around pirate country.
Yep.
You know, and if they make it more for tourists rather than for, you know, if you make it a hybrid, I think you'd have to satisfy her where you'd have pirates come in there, but then also it could be the people like you and I go, so hey, you know, it'd be fun. Let's go in there and play pirate for a night. It's funny. I said, John, all right. If we do, I was trying to talk him in the first season, or second season, I was trying to talk him so much into going back to Pirates, and he didn't.
No, he wanted no part of Pirates.
Yeah, because he's that passionate and authentic, which is why we love him.
Yep. I like leaning into failures, so I can learn a lot from a contestant that gained their weight back. How can you lose 200 pounds and then gain it back? After all you've been through, all the hard work you knew it took to get there, how do you let it happen again? And I think we can learn a lot from those people. Networks, you know, people like, they want those people to be silenced. They don't want to deal with stuff like that. But for me, I think as a public, we can learn a lot from leaning into things. How did someone become homeless? Why? Instead of just, oh, well, I'm not going to give money to that guy.
And in this case, how did you go back to?
Yeah.
Right, so you lost the weight, great.
Yes.
How do you go back to? Because thinking you're still appealing to a very big crowd of people that gains it back.
Right, hoarders. To me, I can't turn that show off.
I can't. I hate it. It's painful though for me to watch.
How can you
I'm
clean
sorry.
it up and then go back to that? But a lot of people clean it up and they're fine. We had a contestant on one of our shows, Extreme Weight Loss, who was a couple 100 pounds overweight and a hoarder. They had two addictions that they had to get around in 1 year, and this woman Mitzi accomplished them both. And still has kept the weight off, and still has kept her house clean. Because again, it all goes back to what was going on in her mind. Fix your mind, the rest fixes itself. Not unlike, you know, anyone on Bar Rescue. It's the same exact thing. And I think that's why Dave snapped to attention so quick. He realized, oh, Yeah, you're right. It is me.
It's you. It's me.
And I got to change this, and I got to change it today. His brother, I don't think, had the ability to talk to his older brother the way he needed to. You know, once a little brother, always a little brother.
Yeah, yes, you're right. Yeah, and familiarity breeds contempt, as you know. Yeah. I know with Maria, my girlfriend, you know, I've been coaching people in the business forever, and I'll have, you know, big A-listers just literally pull out notebooks and take notes, which I'm very flattered about when I say this is what you need to do. And Maria just doesn't listen, but she hears it from Tony Robbins or something like that. Oh, Tony said, I'm like, I told you that 15 years ago, but it is familiarity. It's funny. John's solution to the Pirates was, he goes, we got to bring in a bigger pirate. I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, let's go find who is the kind of rock star pirate. Who's the LeBron James of piratism? Right. Who's the pirate of that world? That is the
Pat Croce.
So is he a pirate? Right.
Well, Pat, I don't know if you know who Pat Croce is.
From the 76, he reminds me of you. He's from 76ers. Yeah.
Pat's the best, and he owns the largest memorabilia of pirates on the planet. It's a pirate museum he's putting together.
There you go.
So
oh my God, we just came up with it. I'm so excited because here's the thing. I have a funny feeling. If you guys it's a great idea. And by the way, listen, it's not actually, by the way, nothing I've said to you today is a joke. No, shows that you should be doing and will be doing. And this is a great idea. And I think if this lady opens this bar and you guys are still broadcasting, I think this is ratings gold.
Yeah, I agree.
That John helps her launch it, and we got to bring in Pat effing Croce.
That'd be great. But convincing John of that is so hard.
No, I'm in. We got it. Don't worry. I got it. No,
right.
That's not going to be a problem. No, because I think he's even seeing like, oh, you know, you can't ignore it.
Right.
You can't ignore the excitement around, and look you can see his
give the people what they want.
You got to, but you see how he is though on the back to the bars.
Yeah,
you can see his energy with her is better.
Sure,
like he's come full circle with it now, and I think because she's better now, because before she was literally lighting things on fire in her place and burning effort. I mean, of course he's like, get that away from me. She's not like that now, so I'm loving this.
Yeah,
so we have to find out when she opens.
Pat Croce even owns on the boardwalk on the Jersey Shore. He owns one of those big ride places, and it's called Pirates. Big, huge pirates, and the whole thing is themed pirates.
I can't wait to tell John.
And he's the greatest guy ever.
We have he is. I feel like there's more should be with him too. Like he needs to be doing more, like you. Nothing you need to be doing because you're both doing a ton. But yeah, he's a guy.
That's inspirational.
I mean, this was a guy who was a trainer taping people's ankles for players and. He
owned the team,
and then he owns the team, and then when he's an owner, he still comes down and would tape.
That's right.
He's like, "Hey, no, if they need me, I jump in."
Back in the Allen Iverson days.
Well, who was the only guy that could get crazy Allen Iverson to
get on the plane? It was him.
And to be that close to upsetting there was one guy who didn't have the team around him, and he almost upset the Lakers. But that was, I think, because Croce was that phenomenal. This has been amazing. I know Tall Mia had a doctor's appointment, so she couldn't be here. That Mia, your girl Mia.
Yep.
But I'm gonna try. I gotta get Lisa Marie or Mia back in to process this for next week. And next week we have. It looks like a lot of illegal things happening in the bar, like a lot of code violations, which I like. And we got a pretty girl, and it looks like we have a kind of a. No offense, we have kind of a meathead guy.
Maybe we need to have like mesh shows. Maybe we need to have like Adam Carolla join or something. You know what I mean?
He loves
Catch
it.
A Contract.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm the one who got them together. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
I was like, I said to Adam, I said, you have a lot in common with this guy, and you're doing Mangria. Like, you guys need to get together. And I told the same thing to John, and so they did. And you know, Adam's a pretty shy guy, but he leaned over to me and he was like, after I did his show, he goes, "Thanks a lot for the Taffer meeting."
He's super smart, huh, Adam?
Oh, genius. Yeah. I mean, that model he has will be the model that every talent will replicate. If I have 10 or 15 years, then he will not get the credit. It'll be like Lady Gaga will take a spare bedroom, and do you know what I mean? And she'll create this lifestyle out of that 24 hours taking place in that bedroom. And she'll be selling perfumes and this and that and exercise tapes listen to me, old man. But yeah, it's Adam's doing it. He's taught everyone that is that's the future in digital. Okay, so JD, once again, give us a quick wrap up on the book, and where else can we find you?
The Big Fat Truth. You can get it on Amazon. On my Twitter is JD Roth 2323. You can also go to bigfattruthjdroth.com. There's plenty of places if you put my name in the book that will pop up. I've been doing a lot of press for the book, so you can learn about kind of what exactly the book is about if you didn't get enough.
I'm totally going to buy this book, number one. I mean that because I do. I feel like Just like the reason I watch Bar Rescue to learn about business, I feel like I'm going to learn a lot more about my brain and things I have to fix for other shortcomings I have.
Right.
Are you thinking of more? I feel like there's more big fat truths in you.
Yes, there are. There's definitely many. You're very intuitive.
Yeah, that's what. Well, I wouldn't say I am. I don't know if I am or not. No, but I have a thing. I've always known talent that people have in themselves before they know it. So that's always been my kind of gift. It's not the gift I wanted in life. It's not the gifts I wanted, but that's always been one. And that's great. So it's very, very exciting. JD, thank you so much. We got to get you on the Tomorrow Show because I think I want to have a longer conversation about TV, your experiences in the business.
I would love that.
And so much more. Plus, I have a staff of millennial fucking brats that just get worse and worse every week on the Tomorrow Show.
Bring them on.
Yeah,
we'll handle them.
Oh my God, you so need to handle them. Yeah, because John was going to come in last week and he couldn't, but he'll come back in. And I said, John, you can't raise your voice with these guys because you are bullying.
That's right.
Oh my God.
Everybody gets a trophy. Come on, man.
Yeah, and that. Oh my God! Last week that was my thing. I'm like, okay, and they all had participation trophies.
They're good at everything.
When I asked it, yeah. Anyway, I'm at Undergaro. I'm starting to get upset. I'm at Undergaro. Thank you guys so much. I thought, JD, thank you so much. This is literally one of my favorites since I've had Lisa Marie. And
awesome.
Great stuff. Still searching you down, Phil Wills. When you come to LA, I need you in here. Everyone else, tweet at JD, tweet at me about Bar Rescue, and we will see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.